For Max Alert, Bears fans, did you know an All-Pro just spilled the beans on how we ruined our former QB? He never stood a chance. And now, a 4-ring veteran swears to turn our defensive into a killer. But there's a catch. The backup QB threw. Truest, better than our star in practice. Are we repeating the same mistakes? This is not a theory. These are facts that will change 2025. Hit like now and subscribe before the video disappears. Listen, I'm going to tell you something that's got me completely fired up and should make every Bears fan reflect on what really happened during Justin Fields' era in Chicago. Garrett Wilson, star wide receiver of the New York Jets, just dropped the biggest bombshell against Fields' former teammates. And I think it's about time someone spoke the truths we've all been thinking, but nobody dared to say out loud. Wilson has been studying Fields' film, getting ready to be his new receiver, and his reaction was utterly devastating. Zach Rosenblatt of The Athletic reported that Wilson saw numerous incomplete passes where he literally said, "I would have caught that." But here's what has me fuming, folks. Wilson says he knows exactly what Fields can do, and now the whole world is going to see it. I ask you, how many times did you watch perfect passes hit the ground because the receivers simply weren't up to the moment? Let's be honest about what Fields faced in Chicago. During his time with us, the man rushed for 2,220 yards and 14 rushing touchdowns. Just in 2022, he had 1,143 rushing yards and 8 rushing touchdowns. The guy was an absolute machine on the legs, escaping collapsing pockets and making plays out of nothing. But in the air, the numbers tell a different story. 6,674 yards, 40 touchdowns, and 30 interceptions throughout his Chicago career. But here's the thing that deeply bothers me. Fields never had the arsenal of weapons that Caleb Williams has now. For most of his time here, Darnell Mooney was our #1 receiver. I respect Mooney, but let's compare him to what Williams has. DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, Keenan Allen when he was here, and now Luther Burden. It's like comparing a butter knife to a whole arsenal. Even when Fields had DJ Moore in 2023, he only managed 2,562 yards, 16 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions. But Wilson is arguing that many of those incomplete passes weren't Fields' fault. I wonder how many of us really analyzed if the receivers were running the right routes, if they were fighting for contested balls, if they were creating the necessary separation. What intrigues me the most is that Fields had a 4-2 record, with Pittsburgh throwing for 1,106 yards, 5 touchdowns, and only 1 interception before Mike Tomlin decided to switch to Russell Wilson. But the Jets saw enough to give him a 2-year contract worth $40 million. Wilson is completely convinced Fields is going to prove all his doubters wrong. I think there's a huge lesson here for us as an organization. When you have a mobile quarterback like Fields, you need receivers who understand how to work with that mobility, who know how to find open spaces when the quarterback is improvising. Wilson clearly understands that, and that's why he's so confident about what they're going to achieve together in New York. The question that's gnawing at me is this: did we really give Fields all the tools to succeed? Or were we so focused on getting the next quarterback that we didn't properly develop the talent we had? Wilson seems to believe it was the latter, and honestly, his perspective from outside might be more objective than ours from within. Now, let's talk about something that's got me absolutely pumped about the future of our Chicago Bears defense. Grady Jarrett, our new defensive tackle, who cost us $43.5 million, just set stratospheric expectations for Gervon Dexter. And I think this is exactly the kind of mentorship and leadership we desperately needed on our defensive line. Jarrett, with 10 years of NFL experience and an impeccable resume with the Atlanta Falcons, isn't the type of veteran who gives out light praise. When he says Dexter has a really high ceiling and is impressed by his professional approach, I'm telling you, that holds more weight than any draft analysis or scout evaluation. This man has played against the best defensive tackles in the league for a decade, and he sees something special in our 23-year-old. What excites me the most is the mentality Jarrett is describing in Dexter. The veteran explained that when he signed with the Bears and began training in Miami, it was Dexter who organized those sessions and personally invited. I think that shows exactly the type of emerging leadership we need to see from our young players. Not all third-year players take that initiative to gather the veterans and build that chemistry outside the... Jarrett was very specific about why the third year is critical for Dexter. He says he's already played enough football, he's comfortable now, and can apply everything he's learned to make that big leap. I remind you that Jarrett himself in his third year started all 16 games and set personal records with 55 tackles, 13 quarterback hits, and 4 sacks. If Dexter can follow a similar trajectory, we're talking about having a defensive duo that could dominate the center of the line for years. But let's get to the concrete numbers of what Dexter already achieved in 2024. The kid set new personal records with 51 tackles, 19 quarterback hits, and 5 sacks. He led the team in quarterback hits and was second in sacks. His 70.3 Pro Football Focus grade ranked him 28th among 219 defensive linemen. Those numbers for a second-year player are absolutely impressive. But here's the part that excites me the most about this duo. Jarrett is a run defense specialist, exactly where Dexter most needs to improve. Dexter's 61.1 grade against the run placed him only at 56th, and the Bears as a team allowed 102 rushing yards per game, ranking 25th in... I ask you, can you imagine what's going to happen when Jarrett teaches him all his secrets about block reading, positioning, and hand technique? What fascinates me is how Jarrett describes that their styles complement each other perfectly. He comes off being named All-Pro for the first time in 2024, has been to 3 consecutive Pro Bowls, and maintains a 79.9 PFF grade that ranks him 12th among 246. Having that level of experience and production working daily with Dexter is like having an elite coach. Jarrett also mentioned how he sees Dexter in meetings, arriving early, staying late, working extra with coaches. I think that work ethic combined with the natural talent he has already shown is the perfect recipe for 2025 to be the year where Dexter establishes himself as one of the most dominant defensive forces in the... The Bears' defense desperately needs that anchor in the middle. With Montez Sweat and Darrell Taylor on the edges, having Jarrett and Dexter dominating the interior could create a defensive line that rivals the best in the league. I tell you this, if Dexter can make that leap Jarrett is predicting, we're witnessing the formation of a defense that could define the next era of the Bears. And here's the bombshell that's got me completely shook and should light up all the alarms. During Wednesday, May 21st's organized team activities, OTAs, the best pass of the day didn't come from Caleb Williams' golden arm, our franchise quarterback, with 3,541 yards and 20 this day's touchdowns in his rookie season. It was Tyson Bagent, our 24-year-old backup QB, who completely stole the show with a perfect deep pass to Miles Boykin. And I think this should make all of us stop and deeply analyze what's happening in our room. Dan Wiederer, of the Chicago Tribune, one of the most respected reporters covering the Bears, was categorical in his evaluation during his appearance on Mully and Hugh on 607 The Score. He said verbatim that the best individual pass he saw in the entire Wednesday practice was from Tyson Bagent to Miles Boykin, and we should put that in our notebook. When a veteran reporter makes such a specific statement, I think we need to pull attention. But the situation becomes even more intriguing when we analyze the conflicting reports on Williams' performance in that same practice. Reports on Williams vary dramatically from reporter to reporter. At best, Williams had an inconsistent day, with typical ups and downs of a young quarterback learning a new system under Ben Johnson. But at worst, Mark Carman from CHGO is arguing that our number 1 QB has a long way to go before truly mastering Johnson's offense. Carman was particularly critical, describing Williams' play as erratic, specifically mentioning seeing the quarterback running out of bounds when he had options in the pocket and throwing weird sidearm passes to no one. I ask you, how is it possible that in the same practice where Williams is struggling with basic concepts, Bagent is executing the most impressive pass of the day? The real battle we should be monitoring is between Bagent and Case Keenum for the primary backup role. The Bears signed the 37-year-old veteran Keenum specifically to compete with Bagent for that backup spot. But when Wiederer reports that Begant had the best pass of the day, and does it with that conviction. I think that speaks volumes about the young quarterback's continuous development and growing chemistry with the team's receivers. Let's remember Begant's background. In his rookie season in 2023, when injuries forced him into significant playing time, the guy threw for 859 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. They weren't spectacular numbers, but for an undrafted quarterback thrown into the fire, he showed real flashes of potential. In 2024, he barely threw for 11 yards, but that was more because Williams stayed healthy than a lack of Begant's ability. What worries me, and should concern all Bears fans, is the immense pressure on Williams to master Johnson's system quickly. Johnson comes from coordinating an explosive offense in Detroit, where both Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jameson Williams surpassed 1,000 receiving yards in 2024, and Sam Laporta added 726 yards. From the tight end position, the Bears brought Johnson specifically to replicate that productivity with Williams, DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, Luther Burden, and Cole Kmet. But here's the detail that's keeping me up at night. If Begant is having consistently better days than Williams, in practice, what does that say about our franchise quarterback's learning curve? Is it simply part of the natural process of learning a complex system? Or are there more fundamental issues with Williams' adaptation to Johnson's style? What makes this situation even more intriguing is that based on pure skill and age, any rational person would assume that Begant, 24, is a better long-term backup option than Keenum, 37. But if Begant continues to exceed expectations in practice, while Williams struggles with consistency, how long before uncomfortable conversations start to emerge about the QB's development? I think this also speaks to the depth we have at the position. Having a backup who can perform at the level Begant is showing isn't something many teams can boast. But at the same time, we need Williams to establish his clear dominance over the position, not just because of his draft status, but for the franchise's entire future. The question that's gnawing at me is this: are these simply the normal growing pains of a second-year quarterback learning his second offensive system in 2 years? Or are we seeing early warning signs that Williams might need more time than expected to reach his potential? Begant stealing the show in practice could be exactly the healthy competition Williams needs to rise. Or it could be a sign that the quarterback battle in Chicago is more interesting than any of us anticipated. Joe Thuney just signed a 2-year, $35 million extension with the Chicago Bears, and his immediate reaction to this long-term commitment tells me absolutely everything I need to know about the direction and potential of this franchise. This man has 4 Super Bowl rings, has played at the highest levels of football with the New England Patriots and Kansas City Chiefs, and he consciously chose to stay in Chicago over any other option. I think that speaks volumes about what he sees in our future. Thuney was incredibly specific about his decision process. According to Sean Hammond of the Chicago Tribune, the All-Pro guard said that, as the days and weeks went by, he realized that Chicago is a special place, special building, special history, and that the people in the building make everything even more special. I ask you, when was the last time you heard an elite veteran speak of the Bears with that level of reverence and genuine excitement? What impresses me the most is that Thuney said that, pretty early in the process, he could sense this was something he wanted to be part of. Something that would be really cool going forward. Folks, this man has been in Super Bowls with Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes. He's seen what it takes to build a winning culture from the inside, and he's completely convinced the Bears are on the right track. Thuney also was specific about working with Ben Johnson as head coach. He described Johnson's intent, attention to detail, and high standards. He said Johnson is exceptional at communicating. You know exactly what he wants from each play and each player, and he's very specific in his expectations. For a veteran who has worked with some of the best coaches in NFL history, that kind of endorsement of Johnson is pure gold. But let's get to the concrete numbers of why Thuney is so valuable. In 2024, he was named All-Pro for the first time in his career and has been to 3 consecutive Pro Bowls. His 79.9 Pro Football Focus grade ranked him 12th among 246 guards in the entire league. At 32 years old, he's playing the best football of his career, and the Bears just secured that elite production to continue protecting Caleb Williams during the most critical years of his development. The importance of having stability on the offensive line cannot be underestimated. The Bears led the league in sacks allowed in 2024, a statistic that probably delayed Williams' development and limited the effectiveness of the entire offense. Thune, along with acquisitions Jonah Jackson and Drew Delman, represents a complete rebuild of that unit. Thune specifically praised Jackson and Delman, saying they are great guys who work tirelessly in the gym, film room, and every part of their game. You can see how passionate they are about football, and the fact they will be here for a few years makes working with them great. I think that continuity and chemistry between the offensive linemen are going to be crucial for Williams. What makes this contract even more significant is the context. Thune came to Chicago in a trade from Kansas City, where he had just won another Super Bowl. He could have explored free agency, could have pushed for a trade to another contender, but chose to commit long-term to a rebuilding franchise. Takes tells me he sees something special developing here. The extension also sends a clear message to the rest of the league and our own players about the administration's intentions. The Bears aren't playing around. They're investing in protecting Williams, building a winning culture, and attracting and retaining elite. Listen up, Chicago. These 4 news stories paint a complete and fascinating picture of what's happening at Halas Hall at this critical moment in our franchise's history. We have legitimate controversy in the quarterback room that could redefine how we see Caleb Williams and Tyson Bagent. We have explosive development on our defensive line with Grady Jarrett molding Gervon Dexter into a potential star. We have elite veterans like Joe Thune fully committing to our future. And we have external validation that Justin Fields never had the tools we as an organization should. I ask you directly, do you think Bagent can really push Williams for significant playing time if he keeps outperforming him in practice? How high can Dexter really go with Jarrett as his daily mentor? Does Thune's extension truly guarantee that Williams will have the elite protection he needs to reach his franchise quarterback potential? And should we feel guilty for how we handled Justin Fields' situation when receivers from other teams are saying we didn't give him the tools to succeed? These are the conversations that will define the fate of our franchise over the next 5 years. That's why I need you to fully join this family, to comment your most honest opinions, because every true fan's perspective matters in this building. Subscribe to the channel right now, because Bears news never stops, and you deserve to stay updated with every move, every development, every controversy that can change our future forever. Like if you believe these moves are truly bringing us closer to competing for the playoffs, and share this video with every Bears fan you know, because these conversations need to happen across our community. We are a family bonded by hope and passion, and families stay informed together through the high. I'll see you in the next video with more explosive news, deeper analysis, and more uncomfortable truths about our beloved Chicago Bears. Bear down forever, family.